Did you know that according to the prophecies of the book of Revelation, a new religion has emerged that could completely change the course of history? Have you ever wondered how such a religion could rise to global prominence and influence every corner of the world? In today's video, we will delve deeply into this fascinating topic, examining how this new and dominant religion might reshape the global landscape. We'll explore the forces driving its rapid expansion, the strategic maneuvers of its leaders, and the potential methods it could use to seize control of world affairs. Additionally, we will look at the apocalyptic consequences of these developments and how they align with the prophecies of the book of Revelation. This journey promises to be both captivating and eye-opening, offering insights into a potential future shaped by powerful religious and spiritual currents. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to stay updated. Your support helps us bring you more in-depth analyses and discussions on topics that matter. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the mysteries of this new religious phenomenon and its implications for our world. The book of Revelation is one of the most unique books in the Bible, revealing the events that humanity will face in the future and the end of time. Its author, John, received these revelations while exiled on the island of Patmos for maintaining his faith and testimony in Jesus Christ. John witnessed extraordinary visions and was often reminded by an angel to write down everything he saw. These visions were filled with vivid imagery and symbolic language, conveying profound spiritual truths and foretelling future events. Revelation has a powerful theme of the victory of good over evil, describing how the evil forces led by Satan will be ultimately defeated. This book covers a series of dramatic events that will occur before and after the return of Jesus Christ. It provides a detailed vision of the final judgment, the destruction of evil, and the re-establishment of God's kingdom on earth. Central to its narrative are the themes of divine justice, the full today. Are you ready to explore the verses of chapter 17 of the book of Revelation in greater detail? Let's begin with the first verse. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and spoke to me, saying, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters. One of the angels with the 7 bowls spoke to John, explaining the judgment, the fall, and the influence of the great harlot over the world. This false religion is defined as a metaphor for idolatry and apostasy, and will be judged in John's vision. The harlot, sitting in a position of authority over many waters, represents many people, nations, and languages, with her influence being universal. Everyone will submit to the false worship system of Babylon. During the tribulation period following the rapture, a false religion will dominate the world. The true Church of Jesus is described as a holy and pure virgin, in stark contrast to the woman represented as a harlot. Karl Marx once stated that religion is the opium of the people, and in a sense, he was right. Empty religion, devoid of true meaning, can be as addictive and deceiving as a drug. The religion symbolized by the harlot does not offer true salvation and leads its followers into spiritual infidelity, idolatry, and apostasy. While true religion seeks holiness and purity, false religion seeks power and control, deceiving masses and leading them away from the truth. Now, let's read verses 2 and 3. With whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. The angel carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The harlot's relationship with the kings of the earth indicates her vast influence. The term fornication reflects her spiritual immorality with the world's leaders. Not only rulers and influential people form alliances with her, but the inhabitants of the earth, referred to as unbelievers, are also drunk with her lies. They all give themselves over to this abominable world religion in a spiritual, not literal, sense. The angel speaking with John took him in the spirit to a desolate place believed to be modern Babylon. There, John saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, identified in other passages of Revelation as the Antichrist. This signifies that the Antichrist supports this woman. People will turn to supernatural things after the judgments of God devastate the world and political, economic, and military powers crumble in despair. The beast and the woman will coexist for a time. Initially, religion will be separate from the sphere of the Antichrist's influence, but at some point, the relationship between the two will change dramatically. Eventually, the beast will reject the harlot and symbolically destroy her. At that time, the false prophet will play a crucial role in inciting global worship of the Antichrist, thus solidifying absolute control under the beast's rule. Now let's read verse 4. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. In this verse, we find the detailed attire of the harlot, symbolizing the corrupt and seductive power of Babylon. Babylon chooses her garments to attract attention and convey a sense of grandeur and allure. John describes her wearing purple and scarlet, colors historically associated with royalty, wealth, and nobility. These colors are not merely decorative. They symbolize her position of power and her ability to seduce and allure. Additionally, she is adorned with gold, precious stones, and pearls, enhancing her image of luxury and sophistication. This extravagant attire signifies not only her material wealth but also her capacity to captivate and deceive those who seek worldly riches and sensual pleasures. The luxurious and ostentatious appearance of the harlot sets her apart from the true church, highlighting the contrast between true spiritual purity and false religious deception. Holding a golden cup, like harlots who seduce their victims, her cup is filled with abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. This imagery vividly portrays the corrupt and seductive nature of the false religion she represents. Now let's read verse 5. And on her forehead a name was written: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Just as it was common for harlots in the Roman world to identify themselves, Babylon also has a name written on her forehead. She is called Mystery Babylon, indicating that in this context, Babylon does not refer merely to a geographical location. It is not the ancient Babylon of John's time or the physical rebuilding of the city in the last days. Instead, symbolic Babylon can be thought of as representing apostate religious systems throughout history. However, in a specific sense, Great Babylon symbolizes apostate religions that will unite in the end times, aptly called the mother of harlots, a term often used in sacred texts to signify idolatry. So, why does this false religion called Babylon hold such profound significance in biblical history? Mentioned 287 times in the Bible, Babylon is the second most mentioned city after Jerusalem. Situated on the banks of the Euphrates River, Babylon was considered the cradle of civilization and came to represent organized rebellion against divine will, as recounted in Genesis 11. After the flood, Babylon symbolized a pronounced enmity toward God. Over time, it became the capital of an empire that epitomized everything evil, oppression, lust, and greed. It was seen as the enemy of God's chosen people. Those familiar with the Old Testament recognize that Babylon was associated with organized forms of idolatry, blasphemy, and persecution of God's people during the reign of the Antichrist. Despite its wealth, Babylon will exert unprecedented religious and commercial influence over the world, representing idolatry, abominations, and impurity, the personification of a demonic movement. Our world, susceptible to the notion that possessing any form of belief is what matters, seems poised to be drawn into the allure of this figure, represented by the modern ecumenical movement. This tendency, evident in the alliance of major world religions and leading Christian leaders signaling an unprecedented approach towards global religious unity, appears to pave the way for the fulfillment of biblical prophecies and visions of a united world under a single religion. Proverbs 14:12 states, "There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death." Human wisdom is an insufficient basis for determining what is right, wrong, good, or bad. God's written revelation is the only infallible source that defines the true path of life. The human way carries the seeds of death within it, while God's way leads to eternal life. This verse serves as a sobering reminder that only through adherence to divine truth can one find the correct path. Let's continue reading verse 6. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. This woman is described as being drunk, but not with alcohol. The Babylon harlot is drunk with the blood of the saints and the martyrs of Jesus. This vivid expression was often used in the ancient world to signify an intense craving for violence. While some interpret the saints and the martyrs of Jesus as two different groups, the first from the Old Testament and the second from the New Testament, it likely refers to God's people throughout history. The key point here is that the false religion personified by the harlot, although the world is mesmerized by her, is a cruel and murderous entity. This image, being so shocking, caused John to express his bewilderment upon seeing it. Now let's continue with verses 7 and 8. But the angel said to me, Why did you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The beast that you saw was, and is not, and will ascend out of the bottomless pit and go to perdition. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. The angel, perceiving John's amazement, explains that there is a deeper mystery behind the woman and the beast she rides. The beast, with its 7 heads and 10 horns, symbolizes a powerful and malevolent force. It is described as was and is not, and will ascend out of the bottomless pit, suggesting a resurrection of a seemingly vanquished evil. This beast is destined for perdition, and those who dwell on the earth, whose names are not written in the book of life, will marvel at its resurgence. This underscores the deceptive and pervasive influence of the false religion and its alliance with evil powers. In these verses, the complexity of the symbolic language highlights the intricate relationship between the corrupt religious system and the political power represented by the beast. It serves as a warning about the allure and danger of false doctrines and the ultimate triumph of divine justice. At the heart of the explanation, the beast carries the harlot. This reveals the true dynamic between them. While it might appear that the harlot is in control of this system, in reality, it is the beast that uses her as a tool to achieve its tyrannical ends. The beast that John saw, which was, is not, and yet is, symbolizes the Antichrist, the final and most powerful ruler of a satanic empire, who will serve as Satan's agent in attacking Israel. The phrase, was, is not, and will ascend, refers to the Antichrist's false death and resurrection. This presumed resurrection of the Antichrist, along with the eventual destruction of the false religious system, will send shockwaves throughout the world, marking a significant and terrifying shift in global power. Now let's read verse 9. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. The angel's statement, calling for wisdom, invites John and his readers to pay careful attention. This rare expression indicates that the vision contains a challenging and complex aspect that will require significant spiritual insight to fully comprehend, likely understandable only by those living at that time. The first important aspect to understand in the vision is that the 7 heads of the beast mentioned in verse 3 are identified as 7 mountains on which the woman sits. This imagery has been the subject of much debate and various interpretations over time. These interpretations attempt to uncover the true meaning behind the symbolic representation of the 7 heads and their connection to the woman. Here are some of the most common interpretations. The Roman Catholic Church. Many Protestant reformers, like Martin Luther and John Calvin, interpreted the Babylon harlot as a representation of the Roman Catholic Church. They accused it of corruption, idolatry, and apostasy, seeing the harlot as symbolizing a church that had fallen into corruption and strayed from true Christian faith. Additionally, some theologians argued that Rome, known as the City on 7 Hills, specifically referenced the Great Babylon in Revelation. This interpretation highlights the perceived historical and religious deviations of the Church from the original teachings of Christianity. Corrupt political and economic systems. Some scholars view Babylon as a metaphor for any political, economic, or social system that opposes God's principles. This interpretation includes all forms of greed, injustice, oppression, and idolatry. By representing Babylon in this way, the vision serves as a critique of all forms of human governance and societal organization that turn away from divine laws and promote immoral behaviors. Futuristic interpretations. In futuristic interpretations of Revelation, Babylon is seen as a future political, economic, or religious entity that will emerge in the end times and be destroyed by God. This perspective suggests that Babylon will be a dominant global power characterized by extreme corruption and opposition to God's will, ultimately facing divine judgment and destruction in the last days. Allegorical perspective. From a more allegorical perspective, Babylon can represent the internal struggles of the human soul, symbolizing the corruptions that individuals must overcome to achieve salvation. This interpretation focuses on the personal and spiritual battle against sin and the necessity of maintaining purity and faithfulness in one's relationship with God. Let's continue with verses 10 and 11. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, one is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. Some theologians suggest that these mountains represent 7 world empires ruled by kings. The angel tells John that 5 have fallen, one is, and the other has not yet come, but when he does come, he must remain for a short time. The 5 fallen non-Jewish world empires are Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. The one existing at John's time was Rome, and the one yet to come is the final world empire of the Antichrist. Regardless of the specific interpretation adopted, we can be certain that the final empire described in Revelation will be the government of the Antichrist, characterized by its unprecedented power and malevolence. Now let's continue with verses 12 and 13. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These 10 kings are secondary rulers under the Antichrist, and it appears that the empire will be divided into 10 administrative regions. It is important to note that these kings have not yet received a kingdom, so they cannot be identified as historical figures in the current context. The mention of them reigning for 1 hour signifies the brevity of their rule. In apocalyptic symbolism, this duration corresponds to 3.5 years. These kings have one purpose: to give their power and authority to the beast, thereby solidifying the Antichrist's control over the entire world. Let's continue with verses 14 and 15. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. The 10 kings' plan of action, similar to that of Satan and the Antichrist, is to wage war against the Lamb in the battle of Armageddon. John declares that the Lamb will overcome them, and the battle will indeed be a slaughter. At his second coming, Christ will utterly destroy the forces gathered against him. The reason the Lamb will defeat all the enemy forces in hell is that he is the Lord of lords and King of kings. The term, called, chosen, and faithful, refers to believers who will be with Christ when he returns, highlighting the assurance of their victory and the fulfillment of God's promises. Then the angel said to me, "The waters which you saw, where the harlot sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues." This probably refers to a confederation of 10 nations. Whatever their exact identities, their actions are clear. This strange figure rules over all peoples, nations, and tongues. The influence of the harlot will be felt worldwide as a result of her relationship with the beast. This will indeed be a world religion. The importance of this religion lies in its connection to the beast. The beast and his government are completely intertwined with it, emphasizing the pervasive and corrupting influence of this alliance. Now let's continue with verse 16. And the 10 horns you saw on the beast. These will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh and burn her with fire. This verse foretells the inevitable collapse of the alliance between the Antichrist and the false religious system, symbolized by the harlot. This alliance, which at first seems strong and mutually beneficial, is doomed to fail. The harlot, representing a global false religion, initially aids the Antichrist in his quest for world domination. She provides the religious facade needed to unify the masses under a single deceptive ideology. However, this partnership is temporary and ultimately superficial. Though the harlot initially aids the Antichrist in his quest for global domination, their partnership will not endure. The Antichrist, ever the opportunist, will use the false religious system only as long as it serves his purposes. The imagery of the 10 horns, representing 10 kings, and the beast, the Antichrist himself, turning against the harlot, signifies a dramatic and brutal betrayal. Once the false religion has helped the Antichrist consolidate his power and achieve his initial goals, he will have no further use for it. The Antichrist will exploit the false religion to consolidate his power, but once its utility has been exhausted, he will destroy it with extreme violence. The graphic imagery of making her desolate and naked, eating her flesh, and burning her with fire underscores the total and utter destruction of the false religious system. This vivid and brutal depiction is not just symbolic but illustrates the Antichrist's ruthless nature. He has no tolerance for any form of worship that does not exalt him alone. His actions reveal his ultimate goal, absolute power and unquestioned worship. Let's read 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4. He opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Through their unwavering faith and ultimate sacrifice, will contribute to the downfall of the Antichrist's alliance with Babylon. Their blood will not be shed in vain. Instead, it will be a catalyst for the eventual collapse of the Antichrist's deceitful regime. Their steadfastness and sacrifice expose the hollow and transient nature of the Antichrist's power. Once the Antichrist no longer needs the false religious system, he will reveal his true intentions. His desire to be the sole object of worship and the central figure of a new world religion will become apparent. Unlike the deceptive and self-serving rewards offered by the Antichrist, Christ is a just and benevolent master who rewards his children abundantly for their faithfulness and devotion. Christ's promises stand in stark contrast to the empty and destructive promises of the Antichrist. While the Antichrist seeks to deceive and destroy, Christ offers eternal life and true fulfillment to his followers. His rewards are not based on deceit but on love, justice, and grace. The followers of Christ can rest assured in the knowledge that their faithfulness will be rewarded with eternal joy and peace in his kingdom. Let's continue with verses 17 and 18. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. The judgment against religious Babylon is ordained by God. Sometimes, in his divine wisdom, God uses one wicked group as an instrument of judgment against another. This is a recurring theme throughout the Bible. The political support provided by the 10 rulers to the Antichrist is commanded by God, though their actions, driven by selfish motives, are fully within the framework of his divine plan. The ultimate purpose of God's sovereign plan is to place the desire to fulfill his will in the hearts of the followers of the Antichrist, thereby giving their kingdom to the beast. The destruction and consolidation of this wicked empire will be accomplished by God's power. Throughout history, Satan has often been an unwitting instrument of God's purposes. The long-sought unified world government, desired by humanists, will ultimately be achieved, only to be destroyed by a powerful act of divine judgment. Every prophecy concerning the coming of Christ and the establishment of his kingdom will be fulfilled with precise accuracy. The world will get exactly what it desires: a godless religion and a godless government. Although the ultimate fulfillment of these prophecies will occur after the rapture of the Church, the mystery of iniquity is already at work today. Therefore, it is imperative for us to be vigilant against deceptive religious movements. Babylon, the great corrupt city, which distorts the gospel, is doomed to be destroyed by God through an alliance between the Antichrist and the false prophet. This alliance will instigate a devastating economic crisis. The kings of the earth, jealous of Babylon's power and wealth, will unite with the beast to bring about her downfall. This certainty is presented in the book of Revelation as already determined by God, clearly conveying to Christians the message to avoid the influence of Babylon and to seek a life in a superior spiritual city. The first warning is that Babylon is filled with the blood of the martyrs, and in this immoral city, there is no place for the righteous. The second warning is a call to leave Babylon to avoid sharing in her sins. Her sins have reached to heaven, and her judgment is imminent. The third warning concerns the rise of a religion that promotes a relative approach, mixing various beliefs and diluting the truth of the Bible, leading believers away from true Christian faith. It is crucial for Christians to remain steadfast in their faith, resist deceptive doctrines, and seek God's wisdom to remain faithful to the truth. If you found this story intriguing and thought-provoking, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest content. Your engagement helps us continue to provide in-depth and meaningful analyses on important topics. We look forward to reading your comments and engaging in thoughtful discussions. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Stay blessed and stay vigilant.